Well, thank you all for joining me this evening here in the UK, or this afternoon or this morning or wherever you are. And I'm really excited about giving this presentation this afternoon on Green Safaris, who are new to the Small World Marketing portfolio. We started working with them in November last year. And we were very lucky in the first month of our contract starting, they had already organised a fam trip which we managed to jump on. And so literally the first 2 weeks of our contract with them was down experiencing the properties, which is just the perfect way to start a new partnership. So Green Safaris is actually founded by, is a brainchild of Vincent Kouwenhoven, who's a Dutch man who has travelled through Africa extensively and is very passionate about particularly conservation and community work within Africa. He actually set up the Green Foundation, which actually has a whole separate website in terms of all the projects it does. But it's the idea, his idea was to really invest in a country where he felt tourism could bring opportunities, so real kind of frontier ecotourism. And he looked at destinations like South Africa and Botswana, but felt actually there the tourism was very well established and also already doing, making great strides in terms of conservation and community. And he really loved Zambia, particularly Kafue. And so he decided to turn his attention to Zambia. And that's where the idea of Green Safaris really came from. So there are 4 pillars upon which the company is built. The first one is called Outdoing Your Imagination. So that is in terms of the client experience, really kind of taking them above and beyond what they anticipate. So that may be them staying in a tree house or swimming in a pool on top of big falls, or something that's just totally what they never imagined they'd be able to do. Empowering the people is the next one. So it's not just in terms of employing them, but they spend a huge amount with training, upskilling their staff and working very, very closely with their community managers to make sure that actually it goes way beyond just the job. Conserving the environment is the third pillar. So that means if you took everything away, what would be your footprint? And that's really the thinking behind particularly the silent safaris concept, which is their focus on electric safari vehicles and solar boats. And also reforesting. So in terms of really minimizing the footprint of where they are operating. And then the fourth one is protecting the wildlife. Through this pillar, they're actually doing a lot of work in conjunction with some amazing organizations that are already running within Zambia. So particularly Panthera and also the Zambia Carnival Program and the Conservation South Luangwa. So they're working really, really closely with those different conservation projects to support them in their work. So those are the 4 pillars upon which the company is built on. But the company itself, the Green Safaris, actually, the properties make a really great circuit. So most people will either start at Tongabezi and end at Kaya Mawa in Malawi, or you can flip it and end in Tongabezi and start in Kaya Mawa. But essentially, the circuit works brilliantly together. So what I'm going to do is take you through the circuit today in the way that most of our guests actually do it, which is starting with Tongabezi. So Vincent first started his journey with Green Safaris with actually Ila Safari Lodge, which has been running now for about 10 years in the Kafue. The next acquisition was Kaya Mawa in Malawi. Many of you may know Kaya Mawa and know James Lightfoot. And James was actually already following really these 4 pillars that Green Safaris had there as their key kind of foundations. The next property to come to join the collection was Tongabezi. With the sad passing of Ben Parker, Tongabezi joined the portfolio, and it made perfect sense because Tongabezi and Kaya Mawa already had a very, very strong partnership. In the fact they're actually owned by brother-in-laws, and they had real synergies and worked very closely together already. So those two were, made perfect sense for them to kind of join the portfolio as well. The 2 new camps we opened last year was Shawa in South Luangwa, which opened in June, and Chisa Busanga in the Busanga Plains that opened in July. So it's really exciting because you've got a combination of these very kind of what we call grand dames. So Tongabezi and Kaya, who've been around, well, Tongabezi's been around for over 30 years, but yet also these brand new properties as well. And the green circuit really connects the whole thing. And the idea is we can serve the guests from start to finish, and it can all be booked through Green Safaris. The flying times between the different locations, so between Livingstone and Kafue, so flying from Tongabezi up to Ila, takes about 1.5 hours. There is actually a plane based at Ila, which does a short hop between Chisa and Ila, which is about a 20-minute flight. The road charter, you can charter by road, or drive by road from Lusaka to Kafue, which takes about 3 hours. All the charter price is about 40 minutes. And then from Lusaka up to South Luangwa is about a 1.5 hour flight with pro flights. Then from South Luangwa connecting to Kaya Mawa, you have to come down via Lilongwe and then up from Lilongwe to Likoma, and both of those flights are about an hour. The idea is we are going to try and put a customs post in Likoma Island. I know this has been spoken about before, but we are getting very, very close to it. So it's very exciting because that means you can just fly straight from South Luangwa straight to Likoma Island on Lake Malawi, which will make a huge difference. And so that's looking really exciting. And we also have introduced on Lake Malawi in April, we're introducing a new high-speed boat that will probably not be used so much for guests, but it's going to be used a lot more for particularly getting customs officials across to the airport, which means it's going to be much more likely for us to be able to do it as a customs entry point. But also in terms of staffing, on Likoma Island, Green Safaris also own a little backpackers called Mango Drift, so it would be perfect for that market as well. So probably not for the kind of Kaya Mawa clients, but it's useful to know that actually this high-speed boat is coming in April as well. So starting with Tongabezi. So Tongabezi is over 30 years old now. And this is actually, sorry, just a quick overview of the rates of the different properties. I'm not going to go into rates and too many facts about the different properties in detail, because obviously I haven't got much time. This is more of an overview of Green Safaris, but we do have some fantastic fact sheets on each property, really detailed fact sheets, and obviously I'll send you through all the rates and the specials. The specials are really super easy to remember. It's stay 4, pay 3, and that is applied all year round, and it's applicable to all properties. And that is also combinable with our long stay discount, which for 3 nights or more in one property, you get a long stay discount. So it makes it very, very affordable. So starting with Livingstone, Victoria Falls and Tongabezi. So Tongabezi this is pillar number 1, outdoing your imagination. And when you arrive at Tongabezi, it is the most sensational view of the Zambezi River. It's absolutely stunning. It's about a half an hour drive from Victoria Falls, and it's just the most beautiful spot on a kind of bend in the river. So it's absolutely stunning. When we first arrived in November, we arrived and we had to do our PCR test straight away because we were flying out the next day. And I joked with the doctor saying this, must be the most beautiful location for doing a PCR test overlooking this river. It's an absolutely stunning property. And there's lots of different accommodations to suit all different types. So the entry-level rooms are our river cottages. They're right, as the name suggests, right on the river. We then have the tree house. Tree house is really cool. It's completely open. It's built up into the rocks. It's probably not for a particularly American market. They might be a little bit more nervous about sleeping in a room that's so open, but it's absolutely beautiful, right on the river, built into the rocks, very, very cool design. Unfortunately, no AC in that room because obviously it is open, so it wouldn't work, but they do have an air cooler over the bed. And then we have our luxury houses, so Nut House, Bird House and Honeymoon House. And Honeymoon House actually has a plunge pool. Then we have the Dog House, which is again the luxury room with the plunge pool. And then our 2-bedroom garden house, which is set back slightly from the river, and it's enclosed. It's got a little, as the name suggests, little garden, little walled area. So it's really good for families, particularly with younger children. Tongabezi is open all year round. And these are the seasons, which I can send you through more details on in the fact sheets. So these are the river cottages, which are entry-level rooms. There are 5 of them. All the rooms have their own decks. They have private dining on deck. Each room is issued with a valet. And then this is used more for couples rather than families. But they're a really beautiful location, right on the river, beautifully. It's all the interior design at Tongabezi is just off the scale, amazing. That you can see the view of the river more clearly there. But just utterly stunning location and really, really cool design. And then our honeymoon rooms, Bird House and Nut House. Nut House is due to undergo a major renovation this year. But again, you can see the beautiful design. And then the Dog House and the Garden House are our family units. So they are connected by, the Dog House is connected by inter-walkways, and they all come with Right, so these are the garden cottage. This is very good for families. It's got a little plunge pool, but as you can see, it's all completely enclosed. So You've got no worries about younger kids being near the river. We stayed in this room when we were there. It's absolutely enormous. You can definitely fit an extra bed, or even probably 2 extra beds in that room as well. So that it's 2-bedroom already, but if you had a family, say, with 4 children, they could easily fit them in the room as well. And then this is a very cool tree house, which is a very open one. Tangala House is our exclusive use property, which is utterly stunning and just set back from, set slightly away from Tongabezi, so very, very private. Sindabezi is the island experience. So there's only 5 rooms on Sindabezi, 1 honeymoon chalet, which is quite a bit bigger, and then the 4 open-fronted thatch chalets. We only allow children aged 14 and over because it is very open, as you can see from these images. It's on an island in the middle of the river. It's very, very cool. It's very chilled. It's totally getting away from it all. Up until now, you've had to get to Sindabezi, you've had to come through Tongabezi, but they're now setting it up so you can go direct to Sindabezi. You don't have to check in at Tongabezi, which is great. So it's a more direct, it's about a kind of 10-minute boat ride from Tongabezi. And then in terms of activities, there's loads of activities to do around this area. This is our squeaky sandbar. So it's an absolutely beautiful spot where they set up for private dining, and they have candles everywhere, and your food is brought over to you by your valet on a little boat. This is also the pontoon dining as well. And then this dhow was brought up from Malawi. So you've got loads of different activities you can do from Tongabezi, but obviously the main activity is you are very near Victoria Falls. So it's all about getting to the falls, getting there, experiencing it. It's utterly beautiful. It's about half an hour drive away. Tongabezi actually own Livingstone Island, or Green Safaris actually own Livingstone Island, which is this amazing island right at the top of the falls. And they also, as part of Livingstone Island, they own Devil's Pool, which is this one, and Angel's Pool, which is just nearby. And this was our group we took on our family trip in November. Probably one of the most terrifying things I've ever done in my life. But they've been doing this for 30 years and haven't lost anyone over the edge yet. And luckily we were all managed to stay in the one place as well. It is amazing. It is absolutely one of life's bucket lists. It's utterly terrifying. I hate heights. And probably what was more terrifying was the little fish that nibble your feet that you're not told about until you're actually in the water and experiencing it. But it was absolutely brilliant, and it's a must do. And also the guide at Tongabezi was just fantastic, so knowledgeable, taking us around the falls. It was just an amazing experience. So then you'll go from Tongabezi about an hour and a half flight up to Kafue. So Kafue is an amazing national park. It really was the kind of the national park of about 40 years ago. In fact, Vincent was telling us that Margaret Thatcher actually had her own safari lodge there, that they used to invite heads of state to fly in and have very highly powered meetings in the middle of the Kafue. It really was the park for Africa. And unfortunately, due to mismanagement and just being kind of abandoned, it's sadly, obviously it lost its position as the kind of prime game experience. But it's still a beautiful park. It's the largest park in Zambia. It's one of the largest parks in Africa. And actually African parks have identified it for funding to bring it back to its previous splendor. The game there is, because there's been quite a lot of poaching over the years, it is more skittish. You don't have that density of game that you do in someone like Ila Safari or even Luangwa, but it is so worth it because it's just beautiful, and the last kind of real wild area of Zambia. So it's a really exciting park, and this is totally the kind of place that Vincent wanted to set up in, to try and help conservation and community by setting up in these kind of frontier parks that actually have been probably slightly abandoned over the last few years. So Ila Safari Lodge, he built about 10 years ago. It's located right on the river, absolutely beautiful. It's probably one of our biggest properties. So there are 10 tents in total, 6 with indoor and outdoor showers, 2 with this beautiful big outdoor bathtub, and 2 family units. It is closed from the 31st of January to the 3rd of March due to the rainy season. But it's the most amazing setting right on the river. These are the rooms. They're built as tents on these wooden platforms overlooking the river, and just this lovely kind of panorama of the river, in front of you, which is always very, very relaxing. These are our beautiful outdoor bathtubs, and just the most amazing spot to be located, and their lovely main swimming pool as well. So the game experience in Kafue, we were really lucky. We saw a big pride of lion, Ellie's. We saw an amazing cheetah, which we sat down with the guys from Panthera, which is the amazing charity they work with up in Kafue, and they were very excited about us seeing our cheetah, the cheetah, particularly as she was quite easy to identify because she had a cataract, so one of her eyes was a different color. But it was really phenomenal sighting, and particularly it's made even more special because obviously Kafue is so big. It is harder. There's not the density of game that there is elsewhere. But absolutely, incredible and very, very powerful. And one of the most amazing experiences of that cheetah sighting was actually, that is when the electric vehicles. So Green Safaris have their newer camps, so Chisa, Shawa, and Chisa and Shawa, 100% solar, and Ila is as well, but they all have generator backups in case they need them. But they also all have electric vehicles, so your guests can have this amazing what we call silent safari. And when we really realized quite how powerful it was being in an electric game vehicle was when we saw the cheetah, and she was sitting there with her kill under a tree, and we got relatively close to her, and then we turned the engine off, as you do, and we sat and observed her for a while. And then when we started the engine, I was kind of waiting for that big diesel kick that you nearly always get when you restart the engine when you turn it off. And we just literally just drifted away. It was amazing. She hardly even flinched. It was so quiet. So it was incredible, not only being amazing for the environment, it's an incredible game experience being in these electric vehicles. But just, the variety of game. And then also you have the river. And we also have, as well as having electric vehicles, we also have this solar powered boat, which again is totally silent. So it's a really cool thing to go out on the river and go for your sundowners or go for your lunch and just be totally silent. It's quite a very, very special experience. So then from Ila, so sorry, one thing I should say actually, Ila is actually named Ila because it's named after the tribe, the Ila tribe that are from that area. They are very depleted. There's hardly any left now, and one of them was actually our guide. So it was really interesting talking to him about the camp and about the lodge and about the tribe, after which it was named after his people. So that was a very very interesting insight. Chisa Busanga Camp is our newest camp. So it's in the Busanga Plains, which is this beautiful, very game-rich part of the Kafue. And it is just, it's closed for part of the year because of the rain. So it's open from the 1st of June to the 15th of November. So it has quite a short season. But it is, when the season is open, it is unbelievable. They have, because of basically because it's closed so much, because of the rains, it's like a lake. So it means that the soil is incredibly fertile, and that means there's a huge amount of game there. So we just saw so much game when we were there. We were there in November, so as it was closing that day pretty much. And we got this beautiful big open plains with this game all around, lots of predators, lots of herds. But they also, because of the water, they have these more unusual species like Sitatunga, which are very hard to find normally. It's very small, there's only 4 nests. And they're called nests because, as you can see, they were inspired by the weaver's nests. And both Chisa and Shawa, the new camps, are built elevated on stilts. And the idea behind that was so that, again, it was minimizing the impact on the environment. They are the most amazing design. The rooms are relatively small but compact, and they have everything you need. And you have this very, very cool elevated vantage point looking out over the Busanga Plains. This is the main mess area, which is just really beautifully designed. I love the interior design here. And the manageress was an amazing whirlwind of energy. She was such a cool lady. So it's a really, although it's a small camp, it's just in the most incredible spot. And there's very few camps around there. There's a wilderness camp, and that is it. So you've got this phenomenal game viewing area with very few other people around. So a very, very special experience. Flying up to Shawa then. So you come back via Lusaka and then up to Shawa and South Luangwa. So Shawa is called Shawa because it's called after Jacob Shawa, who is an amazing walking safari guide. He trained with Norman Carr, and he's well known for being one of the best walking guides in the Luangwa. And Vincent went on safari with him and was chatting to him, and he said he had this area and his dream was to build this camp. And so Vincent basically teamed up with him to build Shawa Luangwa Camp. So Shawa is located in the GMA. So it's just literally across the river from the park. It's outside the park in Sefu. but it's literally, it's on the river, and the park is then there. So it is, they pontoon across to the park, but it's a really beautiful area. Again, very small, only 5 tents. So 4 luxury tents, 3 of those can be twin, and then a family unit, which has 2 kind of interconnecting tents, which you'll see. It's open 1st of May through to 4th of Jan, so a longer season. And this is the main communal area. So you have, it's again raised slightly, and then you have this beautiful pool overlooking the river. So quite a simple design, but really the pool is much needed, particularly when you're there in November. It's absolutely lovely, perfect temperature, and it was quite heavenly just sitting there overlooking the river and seeing the game. The tents are very, very cool. They're built on they're built again like Chisa, elevated off the ground, so they minimize the impact. And they're almost like kind of, I always think they're almost like kind of Harry Potter style hats, but they're designed like that on purpose to circulate the air. And also when you open the sides up, you can get the air circulating around. So very, very coolly designed. They are building bigger decks. One of the feedback was that the decks, the area around the room was quite small. So they're actually building new decks, which will be done by April, or when the season opens actually in May. So this is the interconnecting family room. But you see they're and also having this elevation, it means you have this amazing view over the river into the park. And then South Luangwa, for many of you will know, is really the most incredible park, home of walking safaris. You have this beautiful meandering river that goes through the heart of the park. And you've got, incredible sightings of lots of game, these beautiful carmine bee eaters that then build their nests in the bank. So there's loads of things to see and do in Luangwa. And it's about a 40-minute drive from Fui, the airport. So it's very accessible as well. So it's not a great big long transfer to get to. So then you'll end up in Kaya Mawa on Lake Malawi. So you can fly, at the moment we're flying via Lilongwe, so it's about an hour flight down to Lilongwe and an hour flight up to Lilongwe to Kaya Island. As I said earlier, we are looking to build a customs post, or get Lake Island to have a customs post, and we'll be able to get the customs officials in via this fast boat that we're introducing from April. So that's really exciting, because that's something that will totally change this routing, because obviously you'll be able to fly directly from Zambia into Lake Malawi, which is really exciting. So Kaya Mawa is, I was so looking forward to seeing Kaya Mawa, having known James Lightfoot, the previous owner, for many years and heard about it for many, many years and never been there. I was really intrigued and excited about seeing it. I think a lot of people, when they sell Southern Africa, straight away presume they should send them to the coast, either in Mauritius or Mozambique or wherever, but actually they almost don't think of Lake Malawi as having a coast. And when you're sitting in Kaya Mawa, you could be on the ocean, because all you can see, as far as the eye can see, is water. They have waves, they have, it's like sitting on the ocean, but you have this beautiful crystal clear water that's also salty, not salty. So it's lovely. It's the best of both worlds. Kaya Mawa has got various numbers of rooms. They are quite complicated. I'm not going to go through them all now, because I would be here for quite a long time, but you'll be very glad to know we've got a very thorough fact sheet with all the different rooms outlined, so you can work out exactly which room would work well for your clients, or speak to our reservations team, who are amazing and know them so well, they'll be able to suggest exactly which rooms you could stay in. But essentially there's rooms for couples, for families, for exclusive use, and they're all designed differently. I mean, they've all got echoes of the same interiors, but they're all built into different ways. Some are in the rocks, some are in wood, some are overlooking the water. So it's very, very varied. Kaya Mawa is open from 1st of April through to the 4th of Jan. And it is just the most beautifully designed, chilled property. It's just so cleverly designed with wooden walkways, really blends in well to the environment, and just has these incredible kind of design features that is echoed in Tongabezi as well, that the previous owners were amazing at doing. And Green Safaris is working very closely with their interior design company, which is predominantly COTTAGES, which is this amazing women's group that make, I'll show you a slide later on, make phenomenal interior designs. So the rooms are just very varied and very beautiful. So you have some elevated, some have plunge pools. But what they all share is obviously this amazing environment. And in terms of activities, there's loads of things to do on Kaya Mawa. You've got kite surfing, you've got diving, you've got snorkeling, you've got stand-up paddleboards, you've got kayaking, sailing. This is Katundu, which we would go and see. Literally, it's like a kind of 10-minute walk there. So this was the women who get these, all the kind of old glass. We joke saying this was our stash from our farm trip. It wasn't. This is over, quite a long time gathering these bottles. They basically recycle all the glass bottles. They put them into this tube, which is turned around, and the bottles are broken. The glass is put in the tube, so it's turned around with sand, and it basically smooths off the edges, and they make them into these most beautiful glass and copper chandeliers. So it's really interesting to go and see, not only see where the interiors have come from, but also it's a very successful little organization. They're now shipping worldwide. So it's phenomenal. It's been set up on this island in Lake Malawi. One of the other really cool activities to do is both Chisa and Kaya Mawa have electric bikes. So it's really fun to take an electric bike. And you go off with your map. You can't get too lost. There's literally like one road in Lake Island, and off you go. And this is Alice, my colleague, who just surrounded by kids. They just love the bikes. And another thing to go and do and see is go and see the cathedral, which is really interesting, which is very near the boat or the airport. So when you before you go to the airport on your way back or airstrip, you can pop in and see the cathedral and have a guided tour. When you first arrive at Lake Island, you get off the airstrip and you're met, and you walk down the beach and you're literally met by boat. So you don't get in the vehicle at all, which is great. Yoga is another very popular thing to do. So it's really lovely way to it's the perfect environment for doing yoga, looking out over that beautiful blue sea. So just a quick recap of the 4 pillars, really, and what Green Safari was built on. So outdoing your imagination. So whether you're staying in a treehouse, sitting in Devil's Pool at the top of Victoria Falls, going on an electric bike in Busanga Plains, empowering the people, conserving the environment and protecting the wildlife. Those are the 4 pillars that Green Safaris is built on. They have a dedicated kind of social impact team who are working constantly on different projects across the properties. And as I say, they have a whole separate website on the Green Foundation and the work they do.